On this episode of the Open in Indiana podcast, we interview a chief why officer to find out if entrepreneurship is a great fit for you. Don't miss it. Welcome, everyone, to the Open in Indiana podcast, where we feature the people, places, and events that make Indiana a great place to live, work, and visit. Today, our guest is Chief Why Officer at the Entrepreneur Source, Jeff Crane. Jeff, how are you today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Jeff, thank you for joining us. Let's talk about how you developed the title Chief Why Officer at the Entrepreneur Source.
I wanted to pick a funny title. I wanted to pick something that was thought-provoking, maybe a conversation starter. So I've been watching the Simon Sinek podcasts, and those really got to me. And if you haven't seen some of those, so TED Talks or other things, find his book. It's Start With Why is the name of the book. And I myself had problems finding a job that was going to last. So I was searching for something different. Why am I doing this? Why am I going through this? Why have I been let go 3 times and yet have a severance and a bonus check? So it's very awkward. And so when you're searching, it becomes just a really dark place. And so my why is now to help people find hope in the process as they go through those the crossroads. Where should you be? Those are all good questions, but if you don't have the why part, it all gets to be very difficult.
And so, Jeff, what are some of the ways that you can help your clients answer those whys?
Well, I believe in career coaching as a methodology for that. And you've got to find a coach that connects with you. I guess you got to find somebody that's going to help ask you questions and get outside the comfort zone a little bit. But as a job searcher, whether you want to own it or rent it, the heavy lifting has to be done, and you've got to do some assessments with somebody. You've got to find those key skills that transfer, because my guess is you could probably do 100 what's with your talent, but if you don't know your why, that's going to be really hard. So if you can get deeper into those conversations with yourself and have a criteria and a filter, man, I can open up doors that lead to opportunities you might have missed, so possibilities and things you might not have thought of. And so I'm the self-employment career coach. I'm the one that's going to help you figure out if business ownership is right for you and what different flavors of entrepreneurship and business and self-employment look like. I want to find ways for you to find a business that you'll have equity at the end. And by the way, make enough income and have the right lifestyle and build the wealth along the way. So we've got to look at all those facets as it overlays your talents, your experience, and frankly, opportunity. And right now, people may be scared to death with COVID, the situation that we're emerging, every week seems to be something new, but massive disruption equals massive opportunities. And there are things out there that because of COVID, the playing field is frankly fairly level, or it's been leveled, depending on what your situation is in your industry. But could we find something that matches your skill set, matches your criteria in the middle of a pandemic? I think the absolutely answer is yes. But more importantly, we got to figure out the person as a candidate, because they're the product. It's them selling themselves, figuring out those achievements and accomplishments and how they'll be transferring that into a business. Or frankly, the first question is, should I even be in business for myself? Is there a business out there that would lift up my strengths while taking the structure of something and minimizing my weakness? So I love to work with people who have wanted to be in business for themselves, but they don't know the thing. And I say a what because, you could do 100 what's with talent. You and I both know people that can do way more than they imagine, right? And they can walk into something they have no experience in and probably learn really fast. But if you take something that's already predetermined or already successful and the risk is already proven, could you make that much more of it by adding your extra to it? So things like a distributorship or a licensed territory or even a franchise, all those kind of things have been proven. Somebody else has already figured it all out. Now, I'm not talking about multi-level marketing things. I'm not talking about direct sales. Those are all separate things from what I deal with. These are things that you can have real equity in, and you have employees and you have other components and structures, and you're implementing a process that's proven and being able to duplicate it. So those are ways that I can help.
So Jeff, you brought up some interesting points. Can you talk about the differences between being self-employed and being an entrepreneur or business owner?
Yeah, I can try. Being a self-employed person, you are you're definitely working for yourself, right? You're a one person show. You have you're still trading time for money. One of the silly stats of the pre-COVID era was that a third of all corporate jobs were 1099. So you're really working for yourself without benefits, and how you negotiate that is up to you. Whether you start an LLC to house that revenue in your taxes or not is up to you, but it does limit your liability. So find your accountant, find your own attorney. Uh, but it's really easy to set up in Indiana an LLC. You can do it online very quickly. So you can be a business owner really fast. You can be self-employed, and find work and contract work and things. But after COVID, I think the jury's still out, but we're going to see corporations using temporary help and contract work more than we've ever seen before. And it was already at about 30 to 35%. So now, when you move on to business ownership, I feel like business ownership describes more of a business that you could sell someday, something where you have systems and processes in place that are working while you sleep. Those are just two ways to explain it. But if you have a business that can be duplicated or even transferred, really is the proper way to say it, that's the difference between business ownership. So both are, you're the sole proprietor perhaps, but one of them you can sell, one of them you can't. So if you're the sole proprietor and you're also the practitioner, they can't buy you, right? You can't sell a job. So like my career coaching, I would love to sell my career coaching business, but I think people are buying me, right? I don't know that I can teach and train and try to bring somebody into the business, but until I have a whole entourage of coaches and an army of coaches, can I really truly take that LLC and transfer it to somebody else? So a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle is not a square. We're all self-employed, but business ownership is perhaps a little awkward as far as to say everything is all the same.
Absolutely. And Jeff, let's talk about the importance of, as business owners and entrepreneurs, building wealth and planning for the future. What are some ways that our viewers and listeners can do that in their business?
Yeah, I think there are some great employee revenue sharing programs you can do. Keep that talent pool engaged. There's also some things with a C Corp that you can do to grow your savings tax deferred by rolling over some old 401ks and building your own 401k to own your business. That's a really interesting rollover kind of a program. Again, I can connect people with those resources. I am not certified to do all those things, but I can help educate and I can help teach and train and help folks around. But when it comes to insurance and all the benefits of what people used to think of as safe corporate jobs, you can find that on the open market, and it's not as difficult as people might imagine. So,
awesome. And Jeff, what's one thing that you wish you knew as a new business owner?
I wish I would have known to go get some long-term disability insurance before I left my company. For some reason, I just overlooked that. I thought it would transfer, maybe. It won't. So before you leave whatever corporate job you've got, even if you start something on the side, make sure you have independent options outside of that company's payroll. That'd be a good thing to know. Also, go ahead and get yourself a home equity line of credit just so you have some liquidity and fallback if you ever need it. I doubt you will, but we didn't think we'd be in a pandemic either. So, those kind of things are difficult to get when you start a new business because until you have your 2 years of tax returns and bank statements, it's going to be hard to get financing again. And I've got a lot of great SBA programs that I work with to help people get that funding right out of the gate. Those are really exceptional programs that can be done in about 65, 75 days with no collateral even. But can you go back to the well once you've started? It's hard. It's very hard. So tell everybody that starts a business, make sure you're properly capitalized. You're not going to get a trophy for bootstrapping it. In fact, that's how most people fail. When I went through my SBA process, they required that I pay myself. They didn't want me to not have revenue because when you start sounding desperate, people can sniff that out and you'll end up failing faster. So you need to have some revenue in the coffers to be able to build a ramp and a pipeline and build a business, and not just bootstrap it. So those are things that I think are pretty simple. I would also tell my former self, make sure you have a strong team around you. And that's a banker, it's an insurance person, it's an accounting, and maybe even an attorney. those are some of the basics, that you have a specialist around you, so you've always got somebody that's there to help. So
Awesome. And Jeff, how can our viewers and listeners get in touch with you if they're at a career crossroads?
I would love to meet them, set an appointment with them. I'd be happy to do a kind of free assessment if you want to review your resume, LinkedIn profile, talk about some strategy. On LinkedIn, if you just type in Jeff Crane, JEFFCRANE, or I believe it's linkedin.com/IN/Jeffrey R. Crane. So that's JEFFREY, middle initial R, Crane. There's another Jeff Crane in the world. I think he's a realtor in Spokane, Washington. But if you go to Jeffrey R. Crane, that's me. Or if you just type in LinkedIn, Jeff Crane entrepreneur, I think I come right up to the top of the list. So, or Jeff Crane Indianapolis, that'd be fine. That'd be great. And if you want to book an appointment just straight away, go to https://jeffcrane.youcanbook.me. So those online calendar tools are great these days, and I think they're really efficient. So if you want to go pick a time that works for you, we'll do a phone call or do a Zoom meeting. Happy to do it. But jeffcrane.youcanbook.me, that's ME. So feel free to grab that slot on the calendar and we can talk.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for being our guest today. And to everyone watching and listening, thank you for catching this episode of the Open in Indiana podcast. Catch our next episode soon. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Open in Indiana podcast. If you enjoyed listening, subscribe to us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Music, iHeartRadio, or on our website, openindiana.com/OII podcast. Thanks for listening.